Welcome to Barnstable Today. I'm Nick Cortez. Just a reminder that full-length meetings, special events, and every program we air here on Channel 18 are available online. You can find it all in the town's video archives at town.barnstable.ma.us. The Hyannis Civic Association on Tuesday night hosted members of the town's Comprehensive Financial Advisory Committee, Citizens Advisory Committee, and town staff for an informational meeting on the many issues surrounding wastewater management as the town prepares for the November ballot question that asks whether or not residents would accept higher property taxes to finance the first phase of sewer expansion. The presentations offered up plenty of food for thought, so much so that we'll be bringing you the highlights of the meeting in two parts. Today, we'll hear from Bob Ciolik of the Comprehensive Financial Advisory Committee, which spent several months between 2009 and early 2010 studying how to finance what will, in the end, be the largest capital improvement program in Barnstable's history. Here, Ciolik explains that in order to reach the conclusions that appeared in CFAC's report to the Town Council back in February, the first step was to comprehend the scope of the project, which was a challenge in itself.
In truth, at the end of the day, we were not able to determine precisely what the cost of this program is going to be over the life of the program, because some of the work to this day has not yet been done. But the conclusion that we came to was that it was going to be roughly 20 years worth of capital projects, and that it would be, in our estimate, in the committee's estimate, when all was said and done, the total cost for the program in the town of Barnstable was going to be about $675 million.
With that sobering thought in mind, CFAC developed a series of recommendations on how a program so astronomically expensive could be paid for without breaking the back of the taxpayer. Again, here's Bob Ciolik of CFAC.
As I mentioned, we concluded that it would be a mistake to attempt to move forward on the basis of 100% betterment assessments. We felt that that was not affordable and should be abandoned. We also recommended that individual homeowners be given up to 2 years to connect to the system once there was a pipe in the street. We also felt that it was important, and I have to sort of digress here a little bit, that it was important to ensure that everyone who benefited from this program would be asked to pay their share of the program. And what we mean by that is the conclusion that we came to is that it's not people who are hooked into the sewer system who are the only beneficiaries of this large capital program. It is everyone in Barnstable, and for that matter, everyone on Cape Cod. We did recommend to the Town Council that they consider some form of override, in this case in the nature of a debt exclusion, in order to place a portion of the cost of this program onto everyone's property taxes. The fourth was that we thought it was important for the town of Barnstable to play a leadership role with other communities on Cape Cod in terms of organizing Cape communities to go to the legislature and to go to Congress to have them restore grant funding that used to be in abundance and was cut. The basic argument being to the federal government and to the state government, this is your requirement, this is your law, these are your regulations. You're the one in federal court now suing to enforce those laws and regulations. You have a duty to homeowners on Cape Cod and elsewhere in the country to come up with some money to pay for it. Next to last, we thought that it was important for whatever was the ultimate formulation on the part of the town, that there would be provisions that would be created that helped low-income families pay for all of this. And we specifically recommended in our report that the two excise taxes that had passed, the hotel motel tax and the meals tax, be specifically earmarked for low-income relief. And then last but not least, we strongly recommended to the town to very aggressively try to keep this out of federal courts.
All of that said, Ciolik later conceded that when it comes to sewer expansion, the town won't be able to go it alone from beginning to end, and that regional cooperation will be necessary to get the job done.
It's important for Cape Cod to pull together politically, and in terms of the organizations that care about this issue, to speak with one voice to Beacon Hill and to Washington, and now to the federal court, because they are indeed on the scene. To make this program work in any sort of responsible time, we're going to need help. And I'm just reiterating what we said in the report. It's even more pressing today, and it'll be even more pressing 6 months from now as the project goes forward, that we're not going to be able to do it out of our own wallets. There are 221,000 people who live on the Cape, 165,000 pieces of property, and usually this is being paid for on a per property basis. That is too small a nucleus of payers to be able to do it fairly without outside help. But the help is only going to come if we speak together, we speak intelligently on the issue, and the communities on the Cape, which do not have a history of working together, finally get their act together and figure out a way of collectively going and fighting our case in the two venues that I mentioned.
After the presentation, a number of residents had questions about the CFAX study and on what we'll be asked to vote on in November.
Your $675 million or whatever that number was, what did that assume in terms of the improvements?
What has been done in the town in terms of the details that you need to look at to determine what the cost is going to be is largely the east to central part of the town, up to about Centerville. In the west part of the town, clearly something has got to be done, but when we were looking at the reports, the only thing that had been done up to that point was the analytical work. They hadn't done the engineering studies that would determine what precisely needs to be done in order to achieve the cleanliness levels that they were seeking. So we had to estimate that. But that number is a combination of 4 large items: sewering, improvements to the existing wastewater treatment plant, a second wastewater treatment plant, and interest on the debt.
In your report, you recommended either an override or a debt exclusion override. Could someone please explain to us the difference between those two and why one might be more appropriate for the sewer project than another?
Specifically, we recommended a special debt exclusion.
Right.
The difference between a regular operating override versus a debt exclusion is that an operating override is a permanent increase of the tax levy. A debt exclusion has a lifespan that lasts as long as the bond or the loan for a particular capital project lasts. So with a debt exclusion, you're adding to the tax levy every year the amount of loan payment that you have to pay back. And then once that loan payment expires, that additional taxing capacity expires. Where an operating override is a permanent increase in the tax levy. That's the difference. It doesn't expire.
It's important to note that the $675 million figure that's been discussed throughout this program is CFAC's estimated cost of sewering the entire town. The November debt exclusion questions only deal with the town's $265 million approved wastewater facilities plan, which will sewer roughly 5,000 homes on the eastern side of town and create a private roads improvement program. Only one meeting left on the agenda this week. The Zoning Board of Appeals meets tonight at 7 o'clock in the Town Hall hearing room. Well, that's all for now. Join us tomorrow when we'll hear more from this meeting and on the planning effort for future wastewater projects from Citizens Advisory Committee Chairman Phil Boudreau. I'm Nick Cortese, and we'll see you next time on Barnstable Today.